I'm not going to unwrinkle this background. I'm going to do a series on food chemistry. Well, how I understand it, what I learned when I was learning food chemistry. It started when I was very young. Uh-huh. My mother was boiling water, and she would take these eggs and drop them in the water for 3 minutes and take them out. So I always say, as I would see the little timer and say, time to take them out. And I could never understand why that happened. And that could be done in everything inside was solid. I mean, it went in as a liquid. I know what a scrambled eggs is, but I could never understand how that works, and what the chemistry of that. And I guess it would be classified as the egg in its raw state is inorganic chemistry. But when you added heat to it, it became organic chemistry. Okay, it's like baking a cake. You do certain ways. You know, you you you, you start with cake mix. Betty Crocker cake mix. Then you add this, you add that, and you add certain other ingredients, and then you stir it all around correctly. So when they say add this much milk to it, you add that much milk for it. To otherwise, it becomes lumpy, or it becomes syrupy. And I can tell you as a baker, which I actually worked for Carps, was a baking house. Well, what was it? They supplied uh, flour and the contents for things, pie filling, like that, to restaurants. And I get to work in them as a temporary in their baking division upstairs in research. And I learned to exactly follow what people put down. Like one of the developers put down, add this much citric acid to the pie, which I did. I added that much citric acid to the pie. And then I baked the pie and tasted the pie, and I added that much to the pie. It turns out, oh, no, 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 I goofed. Well, as a lab tech, I did as I was instructed to. And when I worked for Nabisco, okay, the lab, the developer was making chocolate chip cookies. And she put down exactly what the guy in the back who puts all the ingredients together and adds water that does, and puts it in this great big holder and mixes it up, and he pours it out. It pours out as liquid. He did exactly what he was told by the developer making the chocolate chip cookies. Oh, and they came through the heater to the F as a gooey mess. He did exactly as he was instructed to. He followed the directions. And the developer, if the developer goofs, as I learned very quickly when I was at Carps, um, it's the developer's fault. As at Nabisco, making cookies, it was the developer who actually said, you add this much water to this amount of thing, and he does exactly as he's told. No questions. You don't question developers. I learned that much. But as a child, I learned from my mother how to do this little cooking, and that never really understanding how the ingredients, how eggs work, how protein works, how meat works, and that thing. I learned how to do it, but not really how to do it. When I was in high school, I wanted to take home economics, and one of the subject is cooking. And I was told and sewing and other home economics like that. I was told, being a male, I can't do it. And, oh, by the way, sewing, forget it. Your wife can do that. And I told him, I'm not getting married. You have to get married. No, I want to take up cooking. I want to learn that thing. No, you can't do that. But, unbeknownst to the guy, I was a cook at Browns Lake Lodge, Wisconsin. I was a cook, the bottle washer, this and everything else like that. And I got up at 4 a.m. or, 5, 4, something like that, preparing the food and everything else, making sure the tables were all set. And helped the cook for, I think I started at 12 and left at 18, so 6 years. Hey, I was tall for my age. But I really did as instructed, you make up this amount of eggs and make up this much of batter and make up all this. I really never studied how it. The difference between me as the amateur cook and the chef, and she was a chef. Yeah, she was working there in the summertime as a chef. As a chef and then she would make up the special things. And there's that thing and that thing. Well, I really never thought I did that. And then I took some time off to work for the Lum's restaurant chain as an assistant cook. Again, I'm an assistant cook and bottle washer and this kind of washer and that kind of washer, an assistant here and an assistant there. And I thought, hey, I really am going to like this. It lasted for 3 months, and I said, I don't think so. And the pay was, let me see, the pay was $40 a week for 60 hours, which runs out to about 66 cents an hour. Wow, but that was the times. But that was a long time ago. I guess that was considered a good pay, but I would really want to know. There's other things I should have done. Not cooking. Of course, then I went to college and I went to graduate school and learned really about organic chemistry, which I never thought I would actually get to do it until I got hired at a food company and as an analytical chemist. And then I learned food chemistry. I learned to bake. Really? Really? I learned the food chemistry of this. I learned to bake food. They had their own kitchens. And the class was, baking is the whole thing. Because they wanted to make bakers. It's a research. So they wanted the people to learn to that thing. Our ice cream, there was division, how to do ice cream, how to do cheeses, how to do other stuff. Now, those are those extracurricular material after you put in your 7.5 hours a day in. Those are the extracurricular stuff they expect you to do, and they expect their classes to have. Microbiology, like you're learning really, but food microbiology. Now, there's a big difference between just because you're looking for things. Well, they're looking for new ideas. Now it's great to get a food chemistry, the person with a food chemistry from Illinois, Champaign. It's a bigger difference when you have an in-house person that has, and they were people develop techniques, new cheeses, new salad dressings. And you're basically required, you're thinking while I'm working. And I was the guy who tested everything for fat, so I'm thinking while I'm working. They expect to do that. When I took the course, I was, because I did have graduate chemistry, they saw that, which was great. And I did like the company. And I used that, my technology after, like, working, after that 10 years there, then I became a lab tech, and using my food chemistry technology, say, at CARPS. And yeah, in other places like that, which is great and fun. But as someone says, I'm not set up to be a chef. I'm set up to be a microwave, heat up the stuff in the can. Whereas I know chefs who have gone uh, French speaking or cooking such things, how to be a chef. I know a guy who is a chef. When he starts cooking food, he starts from the not what's in the can, but from the raw stuff, which tastes totally different than what's in the can. Yes, and when you go over to his house for dinner, it's a treat. My taste buds may not be that great, but it's a real difference between what I get out of a can and what he serves as food. And it is a treat. I tell him. He should do this on YouTube. But Wayne haven't decided to get that point. But basically, if it says if he wants to do stuff, we can do it against green screen. And he can be in Paris or Moscow. I guess, not right now. Moscow's off limits right now. What in China, which he's Japan, which he's worldwide traveler anyway. And he brings he makes up these foreign dishes. Um, he knows people in the Chicago Consulate General's office, and he goes in there and works with some of the chefs in there. And some of the Consulate Generals actually are cooks, so it's nice to eat under their roof. Epic foods. Give me a glass of water. Some of those things. I'm drowning a pitcher of ice water. Wow. Talk about Spiceworks. And he does the same thing. Well, I made this up recipe for you. This is how they make it, and this is what we eat. And I understand that, but your tongue, roof of your mouth, your stomach, your throat, your bowels, that if you eat this stuff, it's hot. And you don't have to, I just get a little bitty part of this on my. Yeah, that's how I react to hot food. And a lot of the stuff he cooks is hot food. Their way of cooking food. India's way of cooking food. Mexican way of cooking food. Japanese way, German way, French way. I do love going over to. I get to sample all the foods from around the world. But if he asks me a chemistry thing about certain wheats, I'm supposed to know about that. I'm supposed to know about cheeses too. I know the chemistry of this stuff, and I know how it works and how it was developed, and that stuff. He may not really say how was this cheese developed. I would go back and I gotta look at my notes. Do I have some books on food chemistry? Yes. And that's one of the stuff I want to talk about. I want to talk about how to take food and make it interesting, and how to do it certain ways, and why you add heat to something and then you take the heat away fast, because if you leave it too long, it turns into a rock, or like me with taking a nice steak, T-bone steak, and turning it into shoe leather. I'm not here, go away. So yeah, I got automatic answering service on their thing. But besides that point, I'm going to try to get into this thing and how to take ingredients, raw stuff, and mix it up, and why, when you mix this up, this is going to happen, and why salt works this way and sugar works that way, and why you add things the proper way. And that's food chemistry. And as they say with flour, why certain flowers are grown a certain way and why you use this flour and not that flour. Why you have pizza with this type of flour and not that type of flour. Why flours are good for this type of bread, but not that type of bread. And for like fishes, I personally do not eat fish. Tuna fish, maybe, but I really don't like eating fish. Something that deals with, um, I watch what I eat. Fish, our sewers go into the lakes, the rivers, the oceans. Now I've been told that this fish is uh, from an indoor fish pond. That might be something. A lot of stuff as my friend who's a chef says, you have to know what you're doing when you open that fish. Fish do not have muscles. So if you see muscles in a fish, those are not muscles. Is that why I don't eat fish? No, I don't eat fish because sea fish because of what is dumped in the oceans can be, or what's at the end of a river. We are polluters, boy. So I guess that's about my little thing about how I'm going to approach this from the viewpoint of a chemist. Yeah, I guess I'm a food chemist. And how things are done and why they done and why acids work a certain way, foods, and heat works a certain way on foods, and why you people like me who take a T-bone steak and turn it into a leather. Why there's certain ways to cook things, and certain temperatures to cook things, and that certain things either become moisture or they become dry and uneatable, which, yeah, you would trip and fall to do this. And why there are chefs and why there are cooks. Why you go to a good restaurant that has a chef in it and you go to, well, McDonald's, which doesn't have chefs in it, they have cooks. Right, there's a big difference between Wayne the chef and Richard the cook. We both wash the same way, but there's a big difference between Wayne the chef and Richard the cook, even though my food chemistry understand that. But you have to have the art of being able to take a raw material and turn it into a banquet. As I said, the difference between me, the cook, and Wayne, the chef, is that he can take the raw material and make the people who eat it and say, wow. Okay.